When your cat suddenly bites you, do you actually know what that means? It can feel shocking, even a little hurtful. One second they're close to you, and the next, they bite. But behind that sudden reaction, there's something deeper that most people miss. It's one of the most emotionally loaded things your cat can do. And if you respond wrong, which most owners do, you might slowly break their trust or completely miss what they've been trying to tell you all along. Let's start with what that moment really means. Have you ever been petting your cat? Everything seems calm, and then suddenly they bite? Most people think it's aggression, or that their cat just snapped. But here's what's actually happening. That bite didn't come out of nowhere. It was the last message in a series of signals you didn't notice. Before the bite, your cat likely gave subtle cues. Tail flicks, ears turning sideways, body stiffening, quiet warnings. Researchers who study feline behavior call this escalation signaling. Cats don't jump to biting. They build up to it. And when those signals are ignored, the bite becomes necessary. Not to hurt you, but to be understood. Think about that for a second. Your cat isn't rejecting you. They're trying to maintain control over their comfort. And by the way, if your cat ever bites you and then walks away calmly right after, don't brush it off. We'll get to what that really means at the end, and it's something most owners wish they understood sooner. Because this isn't about anger. It's about boundaries. Have you ever wondered why your cat enjoys petting and then suddenly doesn't? Most people assume their cat just changes mood randomly. But here's what's actually happening. A 2021 study from the University of Lincoln found that many cats experience something called petting-induced overstimulation. Their nerve endings become hypersensitive after repeated touch. What feels good at first slowly becomes overwhelming. And here's what makes it powerful. Your cat can't say stop the way you can, so their body says it for them. Through tension, through movement, and eventually, through a bite. Think about that. What you experience as affection, your cat experiences as a threshold. And when that threshold is crossed, they don't push you away emotionally. They protect themselves physically. Animal cognition research shows that cats who are respected at this moment show lower stress responses over time. Which means your reaction doesn't just affect the moment. It shapes how safe your cat feels with you long term. So the next time your cat suddenly bites, remember, it might not be rejection. It might be overload. Have you ever noticed your cat rubbing against you and then biting lightly right after? Most people think it's random or playful, but here's what's actually happening. Cats have scent glands in their cheeks, paws, and even around their mouths. When they rub against you, they're leaving invisible scent marks, claiming you as part of their territory. But when that interaction continues too long or shifts unexpectedly, the bite becomes a reset, a way to control the interaction. And here's where it gets even more meaningful. That bite often comes right after affection, which means your cat isn't pushing you away. They're regulating the closeness. Think about that for a second. You're not just someone they tolerate. You're part of their scent world, part of what feels familiar, safe, theirs. And that small bite, it's not breaking the bond, it's shaping it. And hey, if this makes sense to you, hit like and subscribe. It helps us reach more cat lovers who actually want to understand what their cat is really saying. Have you ever wondered why cats are so sensitive to touch in the first place? Most people think it's personality, but here's what's actually happening. This behavior goes back to their wild ancestors. In the wild, control over physical contact meant survival. Too much contact in the wrong moment could mean vulnerability. Kittens learn this early. Even during play, they bite to set limits, not to harm, but to communicate. And as adult cats, that instinct doesn't disappear. It adapts. Now, instead of other cats, they use it with you. Think about that. Your cat is using an ancient survival language to communicate with you. That's how deeply instinct and trust are connected. And here's what most people don't realize. When your cat bites and then stays near you, they're not trying to escape. They're trusting you to understand. Have you ever noticed your cat behaves differently with you compared to others? Most people assume cats treat everyone the same. But here's what's actually happening. Cats are highly selective. They don't express boundaries equally with everyone. With strangers, they often avoid. With unfamiliar people, they withdraw. But with you, they engage. They communicate, even through something like a bite. Think about that for a second. They could walk away. They could disappear. But instead, they stay close enough to correct the interaction.
Behavioral scientists have observed that cats use inhibited bites during social interaction. It's controlled, measured, intentional. And here's where it becomes deeply emotional. Your cat is setting a boundary without hurting you. Think about that for a second. They're choosing restraint. They're choosing communication over damage. Remember earlier when I said if your cat bites and then walks away calmly? This is what I was talking about. They're not escalating. They're ending the interaction safely. And here's where it becomes even more powerful. They often come back, again and again, on their terms. That's not aggression. That's trust, with boundaries. Now here's where it becomes important. What happens when your cat stops biting altogether? Most people think, good, they've improved. But here's what's actually happening. If your cat used to communicate boundaries and suddenly stops, that can be a sign something changed. Studies on domestic cats reveal that behavioral shifts are often early indicators of stress, illness, or emotional withdrawal. If your cat no longer reacts, no longer sets limits, no longer engages the way they used to, they might not feel safe enough to communicate anymore. Think about that for a second. The absence of behavior isn't always a good sign. Sometimes it's silence. And this is where most owners get it wrong. They ignore it. They assume everything is fine. But your cat is still communicating.